Hello and welcome to another episode of the Investor Financing Podcast. And I'm your host, Beau Eckstein. And on today's show, we're going to discuss some really cool topics: RV investing, RV park investing, self-storage, multifamily. Please meet Sam Wilson. He's the founder of Bricken Investment Group. Sam is an active investor in self-storage, parking, multifamily apartments, RV parks, single-family homes, and the host of the How to Scale Commercial Real Estate podcast. Sam holds his bachelor's degree in business finance from the University of Memphis and holds his real estate license in Tennessee. In addition to his years of real estate experience, he also has a diverse background in business ownership and management. Sam's current focus is presenting nationwide investment opportunities for his personal and his investors' portfolios. Welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Beau. Thanks for having me on today.
All right. Well, great. You have an awesome background. Can you dive into your journey in real estate? When did you get started in real estate investing, and what were you doing prior to?
Yeah, I owned my family owned a flooring company up in Indianapolis, and it was a larger flooring company. I think we had 30 employees or so. I bought out part of that when I was 25 and ran that division of the company, which was mine until I was 30, and I sold that. And then I kind of panicked because all I'd known was entrepreneurship. I didn't have a next step plan, so I had a pocket full of money and time on my hands, but nothing to do. And it was actually, most people were like, "Well, sounds perfect, man," but not really. When you're 30 years old and you're like, "Okay, what's my next step in life?" Like, I have no idea. I have no skill set outside of what I know in the flooring business and business ownership, but not the I didn't have the tools to go out and do something else beyond that. And so I kind of panicked for about a year and then stumbled into real estate. And I bought a short story is that one morning I woke up, found a foreclosure auction happening 2 hours later. And then I went to the courthouse steps, bought a house, flipped it, made a pile of money on it. And I said, gosh, I did that once. I mean, I already kind of knew the trade, so it wasn't a difficult transition, but I said, hey, I did that once. I can keep doing this. Here we are 9 years later, and I've done every iteration of real estate I think you can imagine. Now solely focused, of course, on commercial real estate. But that's kind of how I wandered into it, was purely by accident.
Got it. And so today, in 2022, where do you focus mostly in the commercial space?
Yeah, I mean, that's a funny question because we're really transitioning this year. Last year, we did a variety of asset classes. We did a ground-up boat and RV storage facility. We did a fund-to-funds in a large self-storage portfolio with some business partners of mine, and then did two multifamily deals, both in the Southeast. And all of those opportunities are going very, very well. But I just see a compelling forecast for the RV industry as a whole. And so there's kind of two segments of that. The primary one I'm going to focus on is RV parks, and then secondarily RV and boat storage. And we can get into why, but that is 2022 for me, is really solely focused on that. I still have great opportunities coming across my desk in the multifamily space, but really want to silo in on one particular niche and kind of just go long on that this year.
Yeah, I own property in South Bend, Indiana, and it's close to Elkhart. And I think Elkhart is like one of the biggest manufacturer of RVs, which is interesting. So that economy during the downturn in 2008 got kind of hit, but that market's done for a Midwest market. Like the prices have gone up a lot, like most of the other markets. So it's been a good cash flow play, but also a good appreciation play, which usually in the Midwest, you're not really looking for that in the single family, duplex, fourplex space. No. You're not really looking for appreciation, but we've seen tremendous growth. And I think even now there's a lot of opportunities in the Midwest because of that. Like, it's still like so far under market value of what you have to pay on the West Coast or the East Coast for real estate. So I love the Midwest for investing personally. And kind of knew the RV space from Elkhart, and that was a drive from there. So when you're looking at RV parks, let's say, is there kind of like a framework, like you're looking for a certain amount of pads? Like how do you kind of like, what's your sizing that you're looking for on a deal like that?
It's a great question. And I mean, every deal is different, as you probably well know. Pricing per deal, it's going to be, or price per pad, et cetera, is all going to be contingent upon what the market is. What's the demand generator? Why are people going there? I mean, you may pay way more for a price per pad at one location versus another, just depending on why people are going there. That said, as we kind of wind up this, or I guess say wind up or begin ramping up this asset class for us, I think initially just to get our feet wet. And actually, we got some deals under contract now, but they're in this space. They're in this 2 to 5 million mark out of the gate because I want to get in. I want to get it figured out, get our operations ironed out on some smaller stuff. But then I don't want to play in that sandbox for very long, just because bigger is better in my opinion. Like it's more scalable. You can bring on more personnel. It just becomes more of a machine the bigger you can get in commercial real estate. So that's where we're heading with it. But initially, we're going to buy some of these smaller parks. I think the $5 million one had like, I don't know, 80 pads, something like that. But it comes with and the interesting thing about the RV park space is that it can come with some really unique kind of ancillary revenue streams and businesses. So this RV park we're looking at right now, it's got like, I don't know, enough room for 20 RV, small RV storage spaces, right? So you got RV storage, and then it comes with a 16 room hotel that we're going to Airbnb on site because and then it also comes with a marina and some docks and some other like just different stuff on reservoirs here in the Southeast that you're like, okay, so there's a lot of moving parts to it, but to say it's a price per pad or number of pads, these are going to have some really different kind of market metrics that go along with it outside of just the number of pads. Unlike, say, a mobile home park, which is how many pads is the mobile home park? Okay, we're doing lot rent only. Wham, bam, off we go. Does that make sense?
Yeah. It's interesting. I have a client right now, and he's buying this property. It's got a marina with it, and he has a boat business, or he's starting a boat business. And so it's just like fascinating because I never really looked at marinas, but those could be gold mines too. I mean, the boating industry. But he's going to Airbnb the units.
Yep.
And it's like, it's their long-term rentals. He's then going to convert them to short-term rentals and then get the marina running the way it should be. It's quite fascinating. So, I listened to a podcast a while back, and this lady had purchased a RV park in like the Smoky Mountains, and I was listening to it because it was fascinating because then she was adding all these other streams of income. Like she would put what are those tents called? Those
glamping.
Yeah, but whatever the tents are, I can't think of the names. But
a glamping tent or
yes, exactly. And that, like, she was getting like $175 a night for adding these tents on it, and I was just like blown away. And like,
yeah,
she put this deal together. There's a lot of like value add plays on these things, and I do see why you're going after them, because I think like, that there's so many revenue streams, and if you just run them efficiently, that you can, and they're probably mostly mom and pop owned type of businesses, because it's not really like self-storage there's a lot of like institutional capital, and I don't think it's the same for probably the RV parks as much.
It's not. You hit that right on the head, is that it's still a fragmented industry. And I think anytime you can, and we found this in the parking industry, we found it in the RV park industry. We found it across a variety of asset classes. But anytime you can find something that is generally mom and pop owned, fragmented, then there's just enormous potential for optimization of systems, processes, and people, because it is more operationally complex. Each of these ancillary revenue streams produces yet another complexity operationally, right? And so a lot of people are as the E-Myth or whoever it said, but they're entrepreneurs, or they're technicians having an entrepreneurial seizure. I can speak today. They are technicians having an entrepreneurial seizure, right? So you get these mom and pop owners like, hey, this is great, I'm going to go buy this. And then they work their fingers to the bone. Yeah, they're making a few $100,000 a year, which may be more than they've made before owning something. And it's fun, but they're dog tired because they haven't taken a week off in 3 years. And it's like, okay, and that was as big as their vision got. So if you can bring some operational efficiencies, some, more institutional framework to the industry, then you're really poised to take over and kind of revolutionize and scale that business.
So walk us back to like when you started doing, you did your first fix and flip. Obviously, you probably did several. You got a taste of the real estate, and we're figuring out systems. And then then you said, okay, well, like this is a job, right? Flipping
Right.
houses is a job, and it's time consuming, and it's a little bit intense just managing all those moving parts. And then you got into, I imagine you got into like multifamily next. When did you, now your business has evolved, right? Where before you were just doing it yourself with your own funds and maybe the family and friends. Now you have a big company where you're syndicating deals, you're raising capital, and also circle back when you said fund of funds on one of your deals. Is that where you collaborated with other general partners and you brought your investor pool? They brought their investor pool. Is that what you were talking about, fund of funds?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. And so my transition from single family to single family fix and flip, I did every iteration and creative financing model and that I could in single family. And you're right, it was just a job. And we were making money, right? We were making money, having a good time, but again, going back to the difficult to scale. Like there's just not enough money in it to make it like, oh man. And then each product was so uniquely different that it required personnel that really knew what they were doing in order to turn each house that we were doing, and it just became this like, oh man, did so and so. Anyway, you can get you can imagine the complexity on that front. And so then went into parking. So in 20 late 2018, started looking at parking assets, closed our first deal in 2019, and really had a lot of runway there all the way into the pandemic. But the pandemic kind of really just killed parking. I mean, it's come back in certain areas. There's coastal markets, there's Florida, places like that, but I just haven't dove back in just from a strategic. I see lower hanging fruit elsewhere. So did parking, and then we had divested of our assets in January of 2020, March of 2020, as everybody knows what happened. Parking got killed. So really, I took the rest of 2020 and said, "What the heck am I doing? Like, what am I doing in real estate?" It took about 5 months, and I said, where am I going with this? Am I going with this? And kind of just had to step back. And again, back to that, I have money and time in my pocket. So was able to do that. And then really hit the ground running in 21. And so that's when we started taking down multifamily assets with partners. Again, we took down two large, about $30 million in multifamily last year. And then the fund to funds deal, so I'll get into that with you, is where we basically just form an LLC. I dump all my investors in that, and then that LLC invests as a single limited partner in another LLC that is run by my friends. So these are friends of mine that I've invested with personally for years. And so I just said, hey guys, you have opportunity. I can bring capital to the table. I don't want to be a general partner necessarily. You guys don't want more general partners, but yet there's a strategic way where I can bring capital to the table, which is beneficial for you. And if we bring certain sums of capital to the table, then there are preferred tiers of investors. So like if we brought $1 million to the table, we got a 20% bump in shares over the average investor that brought 50 grand, right? And so we brought a few $1 million to the table, and then I collect the upside while my standard investors get they get the same deal as if they invested directly with the sponsor or through me. So it's a no-brainer for my investors, because they're like, well, I wouldn't have known about this deal without you. So here's the money. And it's great because then, I'll get paid in the back end when the deal performs. So it's a little bit different setup and strategy, but there's some kind of reasons for doing that. And that's also a great way to scale because I'm not running those deals. I don't need to. I don't need to know it's a 10 or 11 property portfolio, and I have nothing to do with the day to day, which is great. And I don't need to, unlike most of I'm probably just vomiting all kinds of information at you, but unlike most people with in a general partnership, you have to prove that you're actually doing something in the general partnership. You can't just go out and raise capital. Like, oh, I'm raising capital. Okay, well, what are you doing actually as a function of the general partnership? If all you did was raise capital and run, you're probably in violation of securities laws. So that said, I can do this as a limited partner, and it's it's completely above board.
Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah, there's a lot of complexities to syndications and so forth, but a lot of my friends and colleagues are, in syndication because it's a great model, because there's a lot of doctors, attorneys, high paid W-2 people out there that don't have the time and resources to find deals. And where else can they get pretty good returns? And real estate's been a proven system for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I get it. And definitely, in my future, want to get more involved in that space.
Right.
Because I feel like for investors, that's where you want to kind of work yourself towards, not everybody wants to deal with like raising money and having investors because it's not easy, right? Like you got to deal with problems and questions and answers. And at the end of the day, the number one thing is protect the investor's capital, right? At the end of the day, that's the goal of raising money. How did you start raising money? What was at first probably just your network and so forth, and now obviously you're getting more well known in the space. It's now you have kind of systems to go out and raise money. And does it get easier as you go?
It does to an extent. I mean, as you do deals, the confidence builds. Of course, the first deal is like, oh man, can I get this done? And you finally get it done. You're like, okay, I did that small deal, and then you do the next one. You're like, wow, I'm biting off maybe more than I can chew. And then eventually you get it done. You're like, okay, well I got that done. It does get easier with time. I would say there's no secret sauce. And one of the things that I'm consistently reminding myself of is to get on the phone. I mean, it's just one of those things where it's like, if I'm not calling my investors, I mean, I love it. Like getting on the phone and talking about money is fun for me. Producing content, which I do a daily real estate podcast, is not necessarily fun for me. It's that's work, but it's part of the process. And so, it does get easier to answer your question, but it does still require some discipline.
You're listening to the Investor Financing Podcast. We'll be right back after this break.
Hi, this is Beau Eckstein, host of the Investor Financing Podcast. I appreciate you checking out our channel. On this podcast, we talk about real estate, investing, financing, business lending, and acquiring and expanding your business. I'm sure you will find some videos here that will help you build your business empire. There's a lot to see. Take your time and make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Thanks again. So when you set out so now as you're evolving your business, so like for 2022, how do you set your goals? Like, okay, like this year I want to take down $100 million of assets. Do you break it down like what in your mind, like here's the food groups that I want to go after. This is the outcome I want for this year. I mean, how do you plan for these type of deals? I mean, sometimes something falls on your lap and you're like, this is a great deal. I got to go out and raise money quickly. But what's your planning process look like?
Yeah, I mean, see, that's it. You say, okay, this is a number, this is a dollar amount I want to take down. This is how I want to strategically align myself with industry partners. Because look, here's the truth. I've not bought an RV park yet. So what am I going to do to set myself up in such a way that we can start closing deals efficiently, right? Well, one, I'm going to go out and find partners that have already owned and closed RV parks. They may need exactly what I have, which is, marketing, investor relations. They may not want to tackle that. And so I'm in the middle of talks with some people right now that are looking for me as a partner, right? Going, okay, hey, we've got access to deals. Here's our deal flow. That's perfect, man, because I don't want to build out the acquisitions team. I don't want to build out the operations team. I'm operationally deficient. I was talking to somebody around a fire pit last night, just kind of shooting the breeze and talking business. And I was like, man, I suck at operations. I really do. I don't wake up in the morning and think about it. I'm not good at it. It's outside of my skill set. But talking money, being the finance guy, love that. And most people don't like that. So yeah, that's how I've set goals, is determining one, the dollar amount I want to take down, the partners I want to find. And from there, the sky is the limit. If we can close 5 or 6 parks this year, I think I would have a great year. And I think that's about all it would take. But again, if we really ramp this thing up faster than expected, then that number may grow, because there's still a lot of really low hanging fruit out there for us. And that we may blow that out of the water. Just wait and see.
Tell us about a deal that was kind of a challenging deal where you had to work, put out some fires, and at the end of the day, you succeeded, but some kind of learning curves on one of your projects.
Yeah, on the commercial side, I want to knock on wood. We've done fairly well. Like, everything has not gone absolutely according to plan, but it certainly has gone mostly to plan. We bought a multifamily project last year, some partners and I did, and we brought a management company with whom we had a previous relationship into the deal. It was their first project in the state, though. And not only was it their first project in the state, it also was a new, not a new asset class, but a new type of asset. So it was a low income housing tax credit property and they have never managed a LIHTC property. That's for your listeners. That's LIHTC, low income housing tax credit. They call it LIHTC in the industry. They'd never managed a LIHTC property. And we, how do I say this? We lost probably 4 to 6 months of operational optimizing of the portfolio or the project, just because they weren't prepared to handle all of the filings. They weren't prepared to handle the class of tenant. They weren't prepared to deal with the state of North Carolina, which is abysmally slow in responding on the affordable housing side of things. There's the North Carolina Fair Housing Authority or something like that. I mean, those people are not paid to be efficient. And so you're not prepared to anyway, there was a lot of just moving parts there that went, and it cost us money and time, which is unfortunate. We still are to this day on track and meeting investor returns, which is surprising. But we've made every distribution on time, which is great, but we still could have been doing a lot better if we had brought in somebody, even though we may not have known them, but brought in somebody that was already on the ground in that city. I think that was a lesson that we learned, was don't bring a property management company to a new city. Don't be the first one. Let somebody else, because then when they came, they didn't have the contractors, they didn't have the staffing, they weren't optimized in their own back end systems to come in and then help serve us on our project. And so, we kind of paid the price for that.
So when you're underwriting, like, obviously you got to kind of tweak your pro forma when you have these RV parks. And we were talking earlier about the RV parks having a marina, a boutique motel. Are you the type of person that gets in the weeds in these pro formas yourself, or do you have like an underwriter that you rely on to take the deal, work the numbers, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so there'll be an underwriter on the team, and we're lining that person out right now. Actually, we've got one that is, that loves to do that. I like to get into those spreadsheets and do a high level review. It's fun for me. I can get lost in a spreadsheet, but I really probably don't excel in, no pun intended, in taking data from a rent roll and plugging into an Excel spreadsheet and going, okay, is this and this and this. I want to see the data. I want to see why it works together and how it works together. But there will be a member, and there is a member of our team currently that handles that. Secondarily, out of the gate, one of the things I'm doing is taking all of that data and then handing it over to a third-party underwriter. So somebody that has no skin in the game whatsoever, paying them a fee and saying, hey, look, here's all the data. There are outside resources that will do that, where you can hand them all the data, pay them $300-500 and say, hey, spend a day analyzing this, and you come back with your own conclusion independent of the one that we've come up with. Please review it and tell us what we've missed, if anything.
I love that. That's exactly what I would do too. I'm always thinking, because I hate, even though I originate loans, I'm not a spreadsheet person. Right. I'm not like, I don't want to look at Excel other than the fact that look at the final copy and look at the numbers, pencil it out. I'm still like an old school kind of pencil out the deal kind of person, which makes these larger deals a little bit more complicated to get into, because you really need somebody on your team that's proficient in this. And I think that's a good kind of talking point here is, so somebody that's been mostly, maybe they own a couple small multifamily properties and some single family, portfolio. And they're like, hey, I really want to get into larger projects. So kind of what I've heard you talk about is that, like, really there's no I in team. It's really about effective partnering. Is that kind of like your thought process? And what advice, like we'll use me, for example, I have experience flipping house. I have experience owning, small rental properties, small multifamily, haven't done any real big deals, but hey, I want to work my way there because I understand, you can leverage more, you can get better returns, share the workload, and it just makes sense. So what's your advice there?
Yeah, give me 2 seconds, Beau. You might have to cut this out. Hang on.
Sure.
I just had some guys show up outside. And anyway, if you don't hear the large equipment, it's out there running now, so just shut my window. So what advice would I give? That's a great question. I mean, the two ways I've done it is, find people who are ahead of you in the game. Find somebody that you can either go add value to, no matter what it is, work for free. I don't care. hey, what can I do to learn from you? So that's step one. Step two would be find a mentor. Absolutely find somebody. And I'm not suggesting you go out and find the one thing I love real estate, but it is chock full of the person I call the guru, but no do. It's like the guy that's selling a course. They're course hustlers, man. And it kind of honks me off because it's like there's so many people just wasting oodles of money on stuff that will take you absolutely nowhere in real estate. So if you're going to find a mentor, get out your checkbook, find somebody that's in the middle of doing big deals, and then pay them a large fee to have their cell phone number and work directly alongside them. Say, hey, I want to learn from you. I want to absorb what you know. And most people are willing to do that, believe it or not. I know people that own billions of dollars in real estate, and they are willing to bring on a mentor or a mentee for the right price. Hey, man, I'm going to call you once or twice a month. We're going to talk for 30 minutes. We're going to see where I'm going. You're going to help me line up my business. And find that person. They're out there. You just have to hunt for them. And they're probably not going to advertise, hey, join my course, join my, for the low price of $49,999, biannually. You're like, okay. So those people are out there. And again, you will pay handsomely. I paid more to a mentor than I did for my college education, and I wouldn't trade it. I say at this point, I've made the right call. So one is find somebody you can add value to. Two is find a mentor. And going back to point one is if you can add value to that person, find a way to, at some point, join the team. Because you will get the nod. If you consistently bring value to them somehow, either by hunting down deals or doing free underwriting or whatever it is, by adding value to them, at some point, you're going to build up the capacity to bring something of value to the team, be it relationships, be it capital, be it something where you can say, hey, I can bring value, and now I'd like to be part of the general partnership. And that will happen. And then once you get a few of those deals knocked down like I have, then it becomes a much more natural progression in conversation moving forward.
That's great advice. What do you do like day to day? Like, are you like a morning ritual person, or what kind of personal development, if any, do you really kind of practice that keeps you motivated? It seems like you're a pretty driven guy. So just always curious on what you do to kind of keep things going forward.
That's a great question, Beau. I wish I could answer it with something brighter for your listeners. I used to be get up at 4:45, do my morning routine, have my coffee, out the door by 5:50, at the gym at 6, home by 6:45, showered by 7, like really, really disciplined. A year and 15 days ago, we had 3 kids show up at our house, 5, 3, and 8 months old as foster kids. And life has never been the same. So from a trauma and abuse, severely neglected background, my morning has gone to pot. It is gone. It is over. Most mornings begin at about 4 or 4:30 with someone in deep distress, someone screaming, crying, inconsolable. It's all hands on deck right now. And so even before this call, I kid you not, my wife has been up since 4 o'clock this morning dealing with, again, kids from a background that we don't have the time to go into. But it was 8:30 in the morning, and she's like, "I've got to sub out. I'm spent. I've been on deck for 4.5 hours already today. I am wiped." Okay, cool. Load the kids in the car. We're going to Lowe's. We're going to do something. Get you out of the house. Go do something else. So then at 9:30, I can jump on a call with you, and I'm going to work the rest of the day. But yeah, it's not ideal right now. I'll be honest. This is hold on as best you can and white knuckle. There's no rest for the weary at the moment. But yeah, when I had time, man. I had grabbing this. I had a book when I had time that was like that. I had all of my year goals, year plans, 2022, and I still had time at the end of December to go through this. And I use a book called The Best Year Yet as kind of a guide. It's something that asks some really great questions, and my wife's been doing it for probably 8 or 9 years.
Was that like a Hal Elrod?
No, the best year yet was Jenny Ditzler, Ditzler. And it was a really great process to go through. And it is a great process to go through because it allows you to go back and see like, hey, what were our successes in the last year? Very few of us take the time to acknowledge what we got right? And especially in 2021, it was like my wife and I sat down and looked at each other like, what did we get right? What did we do well in 21? And we're like, well, we survived. Like there's one, man. And that was a big win for 21. Literally was surviving, because we went almost 8 months sleeping 2 hours at a time. And it was just like, hey, this is a big win. But we also, closed some huge real estate deals and overall still had a fairly successful year. So that's one of the things I really enjoy doing. I kind of miss it at the moment, because right now it's just, it's hang on, and there's really no way around that. So I'm sorry not to give you a better.
No. But I think that's amazing that you and your wife, are fostering these children, because I had a client, I never ended up doing the loan for him because he didn't buy the property, but we got friendly, and he was going to buy this big vacation rental property to run as a vacation rental. And he had like 9 children that he fostered, and the same thing, that they were from like another country, like Ukraine, and like they were like just traumatized children. I mean, like horror stories. These children couldn't function, and I'm like, I couldn't figure out, like, I was thinking about putting myself in the shoes of like, how does this guy and his wife do this? Like, what great people there are, because we always see the negative stuff in the media.
Right.
But yet there are people like you and this gentleman and his wife that, I mean, it's just, I could never do it. I mean, it's just like, I don't have the bandwidth to do it. It would just be amazing. I mean, I understand, like, I have compassion and so forth for like all these abused kids. And honestly, sometimes I try to block it out. Like, I don't want to know, because it hurts you, to know that kids are mistreated and stuff. So it's unbelievable. We have people like you out there. So just want to take a moment to acknowledge that, because there's a lot of people that are, money is the most important thing to them, and they don't have any intentions to do good for society. And I try to have a balance. Like, I like to make money, but at the end of the day, how much money do you really need? And what value can you bring to other people? Because once you get a level of success, not that you have to devote all your time, but I think it's important to give back in some way. Like, I'll spend an hour on the phone with somebody that's not ready to buy a property, but hey, this is what I would do. And, I don't need to do that, but I feel like, hey, that's a good thing to do, because I believe in karma. I believe in things coming back. So anyways, that's kind of like amazing that you guys, I don't know the backstory, but
that's good. Well, thanks. Yeah. I appreciate that. But yeah, if you have the time, I mean, read your best year yet. I use that. I then incorporated Hal Elrod's Miracle Morning. I made my own amalgamation of things and kind of visions and stuff. What I want stuff to look like. I've got some stuff, taped up on my mirror of like 3 big goals I want to see, in the next 3 years. Like, hey, I want this, this, and this. And they're not like, effusive, grand, pages of notes. It's like 6 words per sentence. And it's like, okay. Every morning I wake up and I see that. I'm like, oh, I would like to have accomplished that. Okay. That's fun. So there's simple reminders, I don't have to sit down and meditate for an hour to remind myself of those things. So that's kind of some cheats I've used in lieu of getting my morning quiet time.
Well, that's awesome. So I appreciate your time. We're coming up here. I told you it was be 25 minutes. They always end up being 45 minutes. But Sam, I'm sure many people that are going to watch this and listen to this enjoyed your conversation. Where's the best place they could start following you? Obviously, your podcast, How to Scale Commercial Real Estate Podcast. That's
right. Yep. Listen to How to Scale Commercial Real Estate. It's a daily show, much like this, Beau. We're on all the channels there. You can come to brickettinvestmentgroup.com. That's a great place to find me. Sign up for our Bricket Investor Club. That's the only place I send out deals. You'll get a one-on-one call with me. We'll talk about what your goals are, what you're looking to invest in. We can, even if it's not with me, I'm happy to really talk about those things. I love talking to investors. It's fun. Just because I love watching people succeed. And if I don't have what it is you're looking for investment wise, I can point you to the right people in the industry. I do it all the time, where it's like, hey, you know what? I'm looking for specifically this market with this type of asset. Cool. Call this guy. I'll tell you who to invest with. So I'm pretty free in that regard. And then thirdly, I've got a free download for you. If you go to brickettinvestmentgroup.com/checklist, it's a 10-minute guide on how to vet a deal in 10 minutes. So if you're new or you're starting out, or even if you're seasoned, it'll help you refine your criteria, because there's a lot of deals when you get into this business that will start coming across your desk. You start looking at syndication, you start looking at different opportunities. They become overwhelming. They're still overwhelming. So I've created a guide that will help you really build a funnel from the top down where you can just kind of cut a lot of the noise out and say, yeah, I like this one. Let's investigate further, or help you just, throw the rest of them in the round bin.
Awesome. Well, Sam, I really appreciate your time and the conversation today. I know everybody else has got a lot of value out of it. Please like and subscribe, and continue to help me grow my YouTube channel so we can share it with more and more people, bring on top-notch guests, and continue the journey together. So anyways, thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Beau.